And recognizing that not everybody is as comfortable leading in fitness and physical activity as others, I actually created a warm up and I developed it based on a thing called Brain Dance by Anne Green Gilbert, which is comprised of 8 developmental movement patterns that focus on how we as humans develop through life. So when you're crawling and you're only using one side of your body, and then you start to move and crisscross and do things like that. And so really it works on that cognition between the brain and the body. And so there's been some research on these theories that she's developed and how it really kind of helps the brain and body interact, which can be really beneficial, especially in working with our population of individuals with IDD and trying to make sure that we're working on those pathways and making them strong, and again setting them up for success. So this warm-up really focuses on the benefits of that, which is fantastic, and it really is going to increase the blood flow and oxygen, not just to the muscles of the body, but within the brain, because you're having to think about all those little components, and it provides you a deeper understanding of these elements. So normally in the classroom, so unfortunately for you, since it's online, I'm not going to make you stand up and do them with me today, so you're missing out. But if you want to check it out, there is a full video of me leading these exercises along with the background on the technique and the warm-up and the choreography itself at our wellnessforky.org website if you want to check it out. There's also been even some research in using this kind of warm-up and these techniques in the classroom. So for individuals, even children who maybe don't get to get out of their seats very often, doing these kinds of exercises, working between the brain and the body, can really help them benefit within the classroom and being successful with their academic smarts as well. So definitely take a moment to check it out because it's pretty cool. Within the Health Matters curriculum, the exercise components are broken down into FABs, and so I really like the way that that's done and wanted to share that with you because I think it's a great way to just incorporate exercising in a fun and engaging way. So for breaking out the FABs, that stands for flexibility, aerobics, balance, and strength. So really hitting all of those important components. Obviously, flexibility is talking about how far you can stretch your joints and muscles and making sure that you are preventing aches and pains. Talked about that with our warm up and our cool down. It helps to improve posture and just really it actually improves relieving stress and tension and focusing on stretching your muscles, which is great. Aerobic, we know, is more so the heart health and getting our heart healthy by getting the heart rate up and making sure that the blood is flowing and a little more higher intensity, getting that cardiovascular work out. A lot of benefits are going to come from that. And then balance, which is often overlooked but really important, is working the muscles used in your legs and your core and all of your body to really keep that stability. And that helps with independence and reducing the risk of falls, which, as we've mentioned throughout this presentation, is really important for the population that we support. And then lastly is strength. So obviously the purpose of strength training is to increase muscle strength, power, and endurance. And that's also going to increase your metabolism. A lot of people don't know this, but sitting at rest, muscle fibers burn more calories than if you have fat tissue. So that means just sitting here, I'm going to have a higher metabolism if I have a higher muscle mass. So incorporating those strength activities are important, not just to be stronger, but in thinking about leading a healthier lifestyle. If trying to lose weight is something important to you, it's going to be something you want to make sure that is incorporated into that healthy lifestyle game plan. And it spells out FABs, and so you can have fun saying how fabulous are you going to feel when you incorporate all these fun FABs into your exercise routine. So again, a fun way to keep it engaging. All right, so you just completed the last question, and I'll be honest, it is the trickiest question. So let's see how you did. The question was, you are working with a client who has been doing dumbbell curls 3 times a week for 3 months. She's doing 12 reps using 10-pound weights. At the beginning, she was struggling with the last couple reps, but now she's bored with it. Is it time to increase the amount of reps? Now, I'll be honest with you, the first time I read this question and I was very confident and cocky, I answered true. But that was wrong. The answer is false because you really need to read into it. You don't want to increase the amount of reps, right? You want to increase the weight. She's built that muscle strength up so that now doing 12 reps at 10 pounds is easy for her. You want to keep her at 12 reps, but you want to up that 10-pound to maybe a 12-pound weight. So that was a tricky question. And then looking at our slide here, talking about balance exercises, just talked about the importance of that. I wanted to give you an example of what some of the curriculum in Health Matters looked like. These are the balance exercises anytime, anywhere. Again, you're missing out since you're not in a classroom where I can make you stand up with me, but usually we would do these exercises in the classroom together. So I encourage you maybe to pause your slide now. It's been a little bit, maybe stretch your legs and do these exercises, but definitely start at number 3 and go up to number 1 because it gets harder. So you want to start with the easier one, just standing up and sitting down doing, we call them sit-to-stands, where you're sitting and you go to standing up in your chair without using your hands in a slow controlled motion, just using those leg muscles and without bending your shoulders forward, just using your posture and your lower body. And then obviously the second one, standing on one foot, which you can do while waiting at the grocery store. I do this sometimes while brushing my teeth, just working on my balance then, and just standing on one foot for 10 seconds, or even doing some calf raises and going up on my tippy toes. You can do those anywhere. And then the trickiest one is going to be walking heel to toe, positioning your heel just in front of the toes of your other foot and going one in front of the other and making sure you're keeping your balance that way. And then to make it harder, you can close your eyes and see how tricky that is. So if you're feeling inspired, go ahead and stretch your legs and do that, but definitely just showing that it's easy to incorporate some balance exercises into any kind of exercise or health and wellness plan. Now that you have been inspired to incorporate these kinds of health and wellness ideals into your kind of programming that you're going to do, let's talk about some ways for setting yourself up for success. Obviously, the first one is making it fun and engaging. Not necessarily do people always want to talk about health or being healthy, so making sure that you're incorporating that it is something fun is definitely a way to set yourself up for success. And then also recognizing that it's a choice that people have whether they want to make healthy choices and be healthy or not. And so really specifically with the population that we are looking to serve, people with disabilities, particularly IDD, they're not necessarily given a lot of choice. So really a big aspect of this is that empowerment of here's the education of how to be healthy and why it's important to be healthy, how it can benefit you, and then I'm going to provide you with those opportunities so you can make those healthy choices. It's also important to start slow, and that's with anybody, making sure that you're making those healthy choices. You can't just go from, I'm going to lose 30 pounds in 10 days. We talked about that earlier. That's not really feasible. Or I'm going to go run 5 miles tomorrow. I really hope you don't do that. You'll probably snap your Achilles. So definitely remembering to be realistic, start slow, and then it says down there below SMART goals. SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, adjustable, realistic, and timely. So these are qualities that outline a set of criteria that a goal should follow for it to be well-focused and achievable. So starting with specific, that's looking at who, what, where, when, or maybe why, or even how. Those are the ways that you're going to accomplish that goal. Measurable, those are the concrete criteria of what you want to be able to measure your progress, or what is motivating you, what your target dates are, those kinds of things. And then adjustable, which sometimes I think the A in SMART can stand for attainable, but I like adjustable because it shows that your health goal can change and it can definitely be a fluid thing living based on unforeseen barriers or certain setbacks. We all know holiday time is difficult, so maybe adjusting your goal at that time or going on vacation is a good way to set yourself up for success. And then realistic, that's not a synonym for being easy, it just means making sure it's doable. So again, making sure that you don't say, I'm going to go out tomorrow and run 10 miles. Well, you don't want to do that, right? And then timely, establishing a realistic timeline for an endpoint for your goal. So instead of saying, I'm going to lose 5 pounds, say, I'm going to lose 5 pounds in a month. That gives you a timeline to be able to hold yourself accountable. The one I skipped there is the 1 minute rule, and I love this rule. I think it is fantastic and you can apply it to so many different things. But if you've got somebody who's really disengaged, they don't want to participate, say give me just 60 seconds. That's all I'm asking, and if you still don't want to do it, you can sit back down. What do you think happens after 60 seconds? They forget that they didn't want to do it in the first place because you made it fun and they're excited to be engaged and a part of it, and they're going to continue participating. In all of my years and experience, I've never had anybody sit back down. I will say I had someone suggest to use a timer, but I'm pretty sure as soon as that timer bell goes off, everybody's going to sit back down because the whole point of the 1 minute rule is to get them engaged and forget that they didn't want to participate. So I think you should incorporate that, but without the timer for sure. And then definitely incorporating a reward system. What motivates us is different for different people. So understanding that and knowing that, having different rewards can look different, and it definitely shouldn't be a cupcake at the end, end of a hard workout or going out for ice cream. Food is oftentimes used as a really popular reward system, and there's so many other options out there for successful motivation strategies. Keeping a schedule or a log is also really important because that way you're keeping up with the repetition piece and making sure that we're staying on task and keeping people engaged in that sense. But then you're also tracking, so you know where you've been, where you're going, maybe what's working or what's not. So having some kind of schedule or a log is going to be really beneficial for that. And then lastly, one of my other favorites is the true definition of I can't, which as you can see means I can always nail this. So whenever I have any individuals who tell me they can't do something, my response is, oh, I'm so proud of you because you can always do that. That is awesome. That is so awesome. You've always got this nailed. Good for you. And so something negative of saying I can't, because so many times, so many individuals, especially within this population, are faced with that word, if you can't do this, it really empowers them to, what does it really mean? You always can. Another really important aspect that I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation of being successful is those influences of social support and environment. So really looking at how a caregiver education enhances behaviors. Attitudes, positive attitudes are going to increase the healthy food choices and physical activity. Encouragement is going to improve those lifestyle choices and the ability for individuals to be successful. And then if you lead by example, you're going to get the benefits too. So really making sure that you're involved as that caregiver, as that social support, and providing a positive environment. I really like this slide because it showcases how there's so many different levels of providing that social support and why that support really matters. We've talked about focusing on the individual, improving the knowledge, those attitudes, those skills, the interpersonal level, involving their caregivers, making sure you're involved in being a social support and that accountability and having success that way. And then looking at the organizational level, so talking about what organizations and social institutions can support people for being healthy, and the community itself, getting individuals out in the community, building those partnerships and relationships, what kind of organizations can be involved in being successful. And then one that is often overlooked but really important when you're thinking about health promotion in general is that public policy, looking at the national, the state, the local level, the laws, what can be written in to make sure that this aspect of incorporating health and wellness into what we're doing is written somewhere so that everyone is held accountable, so that those self-determined health goals of the individual meet in all of those different areas, all those different circles, so that they can really be truly supported and really truly successful. Something also to keep in mind is that incorporating these kind of strategies can be done at a low cost as long as you are creative. We don't need to have expensive equipment or have a fitness facility membership. Those kinds of things are not necessary. Just using the resources available, doing some research, definitely not underestimating the value of the dollar store, and just really incorporating doing these things at a low cost is 100% feasible. So here is one of those strategies of ways to have programming at low cost. And this actually was inspired by that clip art image you see there in the middle of the slide. I saw that and thought, I can do that. And so we made our own homemade ribbon dancers, which who doesn't enjoy ribbon dancing, right? Which actually Brandy, the individual in the neon shirt that you see there, she told me the entire program, I hate to dance. I'm not going to dance. You can't get me to do it. She hated doing any kind of aerobic activity. But when we made these ribbon dancers, that was the most physically active I have ever seen Brandy up until that point and since then. So the ribbon dancing is really successful, and that is literally 2 chopsticks duct taped together with dollar store ribbon. And I've had some organization use unsharpened number 2 pencils for that. But to get chopsticks, I just walked into the cafeteria on campus and took a big handful right next to the register. So really inexpensive way to get some aerobic activity and have some fun with ribbon dancing. Another great way, especially if you don't have access to fitness equipment, is to make homemade hand weights, which can be not only an expensive way to do that, to add resistance and strength exercises to any kind of programming, but you're also recycling, which is a wonderful way to help the environment. To make these, you can take your recycled water bottles, Gatorade, there's a milk bottle there, and you're going to fill them with things like you just use regular water. Make sure you duct tape the lid back on, though, or hot glue. But you can use beans, rice, rocks, or sand, any kind of thing that's going to make it be more weighted. And then the size of the bottle and the density of what you use as the filler is really going to make the weight difference. And you can use those as your hand weights to do your resistance exercises, which is great. Some individuals who do this like to decorate them with paint or tape, or even use different colored tape to represent different weights. So maybe, blue tape is a 3-pound bottle, red tape is a 5-pound bottle, those kinds of things. So that's another way to incorporate a fun aspect to it. And then if you're really lazy and you didn't want to make your own, you could just use regular old soup cans or even milk jugs if you really wanted to have something that's higher weight, or if individuals struggle to hold a bottle, they could use that handle on there. But I will say the bottles that you see there that have those grooves, or even like a Gatorade bottle that's the 12 ounce, is going to have the different sizes. You can really see if someone's got different grip strength or any mobility limitations in their fingers. Different types of bottles are going to be able to cater to that. So paying attention to that's going to really help make those homemade fun hand weights be accessible. This talks about the obstacle course, which is another one of my favorite things that we have done in programming. A great way, again, to incorporate it in for being fun, and you're inspiring healthy choices by adding a lot of variety and different enjoyment. And then there's this other opportunity for motivational support, because as we made different obstacles around the room, I did the programming in a tag team format. So each individual was set at a station that they completed in front of everyone else. So it gave the opportunity for their peers to support them and say encouraging things for them to finish that obstacle. And then they went to the next one where that other person was waiting and gave them a high five to continue that energy. And then that person finished their next obstacle until we went the full rotation all the way around the room, and everybody got to do each obstacle. So you're incorporating that social environment, and then it's that repetition piece so that everybody can see over and over again what's expected at each of those stations and what the proper form is. And so great ways to just, again, make it more engaging and more fun instead of just a normal regular obstacle course where you're being competitive against others. You're more so competitive against yourself or as a team, making sure that your time gets better the next time. So really fun way to be engaging and incorporate those physical activity components. Another really important aspect to my programming that I wanted to share with you all is incorporating some educational games. And so those are going to be activities that incorporate that wellness education piece of whatever you're learning about, or whatever it is that you're teaching, and also incorporating a physical component, so that way there's some kind of movement, there's some kind of game, some kind of activity. So really thinking of ways to engage in that. And the picture that you see on your slide is actually my favorite one that I created, and we call that our wellness soccer ball. And so there was a Health Edco beach ball that you could purchase that had wellness questions on it, and from there, when you throw it, wherever your right thumb lands when you catch the ball, you're responsible for the questions. I went to make one of those, and I'll be honest with you, my OCD came up and I didn't want to draw straight lines on a beach ball to write all those questions, and so instead I got this blow-up soccer ball from the dollar store, thinking how brilliant it was that it already had the lines on it. And I wrote my wellness questions and then thought, okay, what's going to happen if their right thumb lands on the black hexagon? Well, they're going to lead the rest of the group in a physical activity. So now you're engaging in those questions, those wellness questions, that's facilitating discussion, and included in those questions are things about nutrition and exercise and just overall health. But then I also included some self-efficacy questions like, what's your favorite thing about yourself? Or what's the biggest barrier you have for being healthy? And watching the social interaction between the group of, I really like your smile, Jay, or you're really good, Brandy, at motivating me to be healthy, was such a great way to see that holistic aspect of health. And then watching individuals get to be leaders when they landed on that black hexagon, to lead everybody in whatever their exercise was, and the enjoyment and the empowerment of that really makes this my favorite educational game for sure. Here are some helpful resources for you to walk away with today. I already mentioned the cdc.gov, their disability and health information, so definitely want to make sure you have that as a resource in your back pocket for having access to the data and the tools and all the information that they provide there. And then there's the nicpad.org, which is a National Center on Health and Physical Activity and Disability. They've got a lot of great resources, information, videos, but it's more so focused on limited mobility for individuals that want to be active. But there's recipes, all kinds of really cool things on there. And then speaking of recipes, I really hope that you're familiar already with choosemyplate.gov. But just in case you aren't, there's that website, and it's a really extensive website with all kinds of nutrition information, guidelines. There's 10-tip series. There's a super tracker tool, so you can actually track your daily intake like a food log. Lots of recipes as well. And I think there's even a link to a physical activity tracker through Choose My Plate. So 100% check that out. And then the Pulptastic link, the 24 must-see diagrams, is just something I really like because it kind of goes through all these different tools of, how you can pick an avocado and know if it's ripe or not by looking at the stem. Little fun things like that, little smoothie recipes. There's all kinds of unique things on this post, and they're all universal. There's pictures and videos, and there's lots of text, and so I just really like that one, and usually would bring that up to showcase it to you so you can check that out. And then last but not least is the website that I run through HCI, and that is again the wellness4ky.org. And I am no word pro wizard, but pretty proud of this website. Any of the programming or resources or anything that we have going on at the Health and Wellness Initiative, we make accessible on that website. And so, as I mentioned, that wellness soccer ball, even the obstacle course, that is just a small example of all the resources that are on that website that you could look at to incorporate into what it is that you're going to do and ways that you can involve health and wellness into your kinds of programming. And so definitely want to check that out. Really look at this website, here it is, so that you can check it out. Always on the home page we have updated articles and information about health and what's going on and things that are interesting within the topic. The Health Matters and the Health Partners projects is currently what the Health and Wellness Initiative is focusing on, so there's all kinds of information specific to that. Hopefully there'll be continued partnerships, so we'll be able to expand upon those. Maybe if you look at this later, there'll be new ones. The Kentucky Grow is a partnership with the Agribility here at University of Kentucky, and this is actually the adaptive gardening modules that I was discussing earlier. You can see Kathy there checking the soil, testing that. So all kinds of ways to make sure gardening is accessible for everybody. But really what I think is going to be most beneficial to you guys are going to be these resources pages. So the main resource page, there's the warm-up video that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. There's handouts about the portion distortion we talked about, some tips. A lot of my organizations ask for hygiene lessons. So, a lot of individuals with disabilities have a hard time with hygiene. So looking at ways to do that in a fun and engaging way, like putting glitter and hand sanitizer to represent the germs and how they spread. So interesting ways to make learning about health fun and exciting and engaging. So all kinds of great resources. This one's a wonderful one with the Recreation Resource Guide. This goes through different recreation opportunities all across the entire state and ones that are adaptive in nature. So we try to keep that updated so you guys can know what's out there and you can offer that to the individuals that you support within your community. So a lot of great resources there, as well as activity ideas, which this is probably our more popularly used resources. We've got the ribbon dancing activities where I talked about that wellness soccer ball, how to break that down and do that on your own. All the information that you need for that is here on how to do those things. And so you can incorporate that. This one actually, the Go Slow Whoa, is one of my favorites. There's this fantastic handout that talks about food in certain categories. Obviously the green you want to eat a lot of, the yellow you don't want to eat as much of, and the red, you want to avoid those french fries. It doesn't necessarily count as a vegetable, right? It doesn't count as a vegetable at all. So looking at these food items in this way, you can talk about it and in a fun and engaging way, and then actually with the lesson plan, how it's described here, I incorporated this into a red light, green light game. which was really fun. And so we were hollering out different food items, and you have to think about where do they fall on that handout, and you get to move forward if you're in the green area, only a little bit in the yellow, and you had to take a step back for the red. And it really developed into more of like a, what did you have for dinner last night, Lindsay? Well, let me tell you, I had spaghetti with whole wheat noodles, and we got to move forward. But then I couldn't find the turkey meat, so I had to use sausage to take a step back. So taking it to that next level of, I had chicken for dinner. Was it grilled or fried? So asking those next level questions to know if you get to move forward or not. So that's one of my definite favorite ones for sure. So definitely really interesting ways to incorporate exercises and health lessons in a fun and engaging way for people who maybe aren't necessarily as into the topic or as an inventive, as excited in a creative way that we can do it. But this is the newest one that I've added is a Jeopardy game, which actually has a PowerPoint that includes sound effects and daily double surprises that include physical activity surprises where everybody has to get moving a little bit. So a lot of great ways to hopefully incorporate these kinds of things into what you all have going on and ways to adapt them. And as we continue moving forward with the CDC grant that is now funding my position and the new partners and projects, these resources are going to continue to be updated, and I bet if you go check this out today, there'll be a lot more exciting things on there for you to check out. Here is my contact information, my email address, and my phone number. And so I would love to hear back from you guys if there's any questions that you have about anything or you want more information about any of the things that you've seen in this slide. It was definitely a pleasure to talk at you today from this presentation. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you got something out of it. And most importantly, I really do hope that you're inspired to recognize how important of an aspect health and wellness is when it comes to supporting people with disabilities. And I hope that you've been inspired to think about ways that you can incorporate some of these concepts and theories into what it is that you're going to do above and beyond. And I'm really excited to see the difference that you're going to make in people's lives. Have a good day.